Happy Halloween everyone, and welcome to Thrown with Great Force.
And they called it Puppy Love. Oh, I guess they'll never know how a young heart really feels.
Mrs. Coulter, having allied herself with Lord Asriel, plots with him to dispose of God's Commander-in-Chief, Metatron. Wait, what? Metatron? I know there really is an angel in Talmudic folklore called that, but still, Metatron? Really? Why Metatron? Why not Michael, or Gabriel, or Raphael, or Uriel, or any of the countless other Judeo-Christian angels whose names don't sound like giant robots in Saturday morning cartoons? How are we supposed to take that seriously? But I digress. Mrs. Coulter goes to see Metatron, and seduces him by playing to his fetish for corporeal beings.
You know, for kids.
She lures him to the edge of a bottomless pit, where Lord Asriel is waiting for him. They get into a fight, as Lord Asriel tries to drag Metatron, into the abyss. Metatron, is on the verge of escaping when Mrs. Coulter sacrifices herself by lunging at him and weighing him down so that all three of them fall and are swallowed up by the void.
You could almost say she took the plunge.
To be fair, it is suitably dramatic, until you realise that Lyra is never going to get to confront Lord Asriel or Mrs. Coulter and resolve her issues with them, meaning a major story arc that's been developed over the course of the trilogy as one of the emotional cruxes of the plot is ultimately dropped and forgotten about.
All I got to ask is, why so stupid?
And the book continues to drag on, for 7 more chapters no less, despite having lost all momentum, what with all the major antagonists being dead by now, and the climatic battle having been unceremoniously swept under the rug. Will and Lyra, upon having buried Tialis and Salmakia — by the way, I forgot to mention last time that they both got killed, just goes to show what memorable and important assets to the plot they were — discover that not only does the world they fled into on a whim just so happen to be the Malefa world, they also just so happen to be in close proximity to the one village where Mary Malone is staying.
It's a small... No, I'm not even going to bother, it's just too obvious.
As they're recuperating, we get Joy of Joy's another sermon, courtesy of Mary Malone, who states, quite frankly, that the Christian religion is a very powerful and convincing mistake.
Yes, those are the exact words.
And as if that wasn't galling enough, Pullman also has the nerve to attack C.S. Lewis for making the Narnia books Christian propaganda, when not only does his own work contain such subtleties as the above quote, he's upfront about it being intentional, and whereas Lewis merely incorporated religious themes into his stories, as opposed to basing them around them, Pullman explicitly wrote his dark materials to kill God in the minds of children.
Once again, exact words.
Furthermore, he accuses Lewis of demonising female sexuality, because the female character was portrayed in a bad light for being shallow and materialistic. How that relates to sexuality I have no idea, when the most overtly sexual female character in his books, Mrs. Coulter, is evil! At least Narnia has the excuse of being written before the civil rights movement. Mary explains that she used to be a nun, but quit when she decided her religion was bogus. And what made her decide that?
She wanted to get laid. That's it. She wanted to get laid.
Yeah, apparently, the most important thing in life is not spirituality, or intellect, or creativity, or even morals, but the orgasm. And forsaking your deep-held beliefs and values in pursuit of the orgasm is a noble thing to do, even when there's no reason for it. Because surely, May would have known her options aren't so limited. She didn't even have to join a more liberal denomination, the existence of which Pullman is probably unaware. She could have remained Catholic without having to be bound by a vow of chastity simply by, oh, I don't know, not being a nun! It's here that things start to get a little creepy. When Mary tells all this, Lyra suddenly has her first sexual awakening, because apparently puberty is triggered not by hormones, but by corny speeches, which must be why watching Braveheart made me all moody and sprout hair in awkward places.
Thanks a lot, Mel Gibson.
That's not what's creepy, though. What's creepy is the, rather lavish way in which Pullman describes this experience. She found a stirring at the roots of her hair. She found herself breathing faster. She had never been on a roller coaster or anything like one, but if she had, she would have recognised the sensations in her breast. They were exciting and frightening at the same time, and she had not the slightest idea why. The sensation continued and deepened and changed, as more parts of her body found themselves affected too.
Yeah, why do I get the feeling Pullman typed that paragraph out with one hand?
Still not creeped out? Well, she and Will then head off into the woods, on their own I might add, where they declare their love for one another, which wouldn't be too bad if it weren't for the fact that this romance of theirs is portrayed with absolute sincerity, as if it were an actual romance, not holding hands or fluff like that, but an actual, honest-to-God, adult romance, because 12-year-olds totally have the capacity for deep, meaningful, true love, right? Gimme a fucking break. I know Pullman was grown in a lab by Richard Dawkins and thus never had a childhood of his own, but I'd have thought he'd have spent enough time around the kids he keeps captive in the basement of his gingerbread house to realise that growing up does not work that way. You don't just go through some magical transformation sequence and then you're fully mature all of a sudden. Children are not Pokemon. When I was 12, I was still just an innocent child, full of light and laughter, unsullied by worldly affairs.
Granted, I did kill a few people, but they were Dutch, so that makes it okay.
Then they start making out. Rather passionately, in fact. Kissing her hot face over and over again, drinking in with adoration the scent of her body and her warm, honey-fragrant hair and her sweet, moist mouth. And that's all they do. Yup, they just kiss, without ending the scene on any ambiguous notes or leaving any questions open about how much further they might have. Bah, who am I kidding? It's blatantly implied they have sex. Jesus fucking Christ on a pogo stick! They're not just underage, they're not even teenagers yet! They shouldn't even be wanking at that age! Why is this book even legal?
They call it puppy love, I call it sick.
I would go into detail about the implications of them doing it in the jungle without any access to any sort of hygiene product or even the most basic sanitation, but after the lows they've sunk to, I really don't see the point in caring. To hell with rubber johnnies, what these kids need are a castrating iron and some stitches.
Still, it could have been worse. At least they didn't do it on the golf course.
Oh, and it saves the multiverse. Somehow. Power of love and all that. Anyway, Pullman arbitrarily decides he wants a bittersweet ending, because it wouldn't be true art if it wasn't bittersweet, and he's not going to let logic get in the way of it. As it turns out, the flow of dust is caused by it being drained from the multiverse through openings made by the subtle knife, and unless the partitions between worlds are re-established, thereby preventing travel between them, all conscious life will cease to exist. And so the story ends as our young lovers, and yes, they're explicitly referred to as lovers, ew, are forced to go their separate ways and return to their native dimensions, because only the portal leading the dead out of the underworld may be left open. You know, kind of like how one chocolate bar is okay, but two will turn you into Jabba the Hutt.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to do a little magic trick. I'm going to make this shitty book disappear.
This book is Belgium. I'm making a note here, piece of crap. It's hard to overstate my disappointment. The amber spyglass. It's so pretentious, it makes me gag. Your ego's so big, you're more obnoxious than Kanye West. But there's no sense nitpicking over every flaw. You just keep on ranting until your throat gets sore, and the review gets done, and you get to make fun of the authors who are full of shit. It could have been awesome. There was so much potential here. But instead, you broke my heart and bored me. And pissed me the fuck off. And made me tear my hair out in rage. It shouldn't just be tossed aside, it should be thrown with great force. 'Cause I hate it when you force feed me your ideals. Not to mention nonsense like pachyderms on wheels. But if you weren't such a nut and didn't write kiddie smart, maybe you wouldn't be full of shit. You're a waste of time. I'd rather read Narnia instead. Maybe you'll find someone who gives a damn. Maybe Chris Hitchens. He's an atheist douchebag like you. Anyway, Lewis is great. His books are better than yours. Look at me, still talking when there's reviews to do. When I read your work, it makes me glad I'm not you. I've got YouTube shows to run. There's critiquing to be done on the authors who are full of shit. And believe me, I am full of shit. I'm doing reviews and I'm full of shit. I feel lousy and I'm full of shit. I'm such a nerd and I am full of shit. I have no life and I am full of shit. Full of shit. Full of shit.